In pest control or any home service business, one of the quickest ways I can tell if your business is going to succeed or fail is simply by looking at your service stack. A good service stack will maximize revenue, minimize costs, and unlike marketing or labor, it doesn't cost you anything. But a bad service stack, it can crush your profits and completely stall the business. Hey guys, my name is Jonas Olson. I'm the founder of Pest Badger. I've been in the pest control industry for 17 years. Over the last 5 years, we've got a pest control company from 1 location to 19 locations across 7 states. I use this channel to document how I think about building service businesses and what's actually working for us right now. I wish my mentors would have documented their journey, so I'm documenting mine for you. So one of the biggest mistakes I see right off the rip is small pest control companies make building their businesses around one-time services. And honestly, I understand it because when you first getting started, revenue is revenue. The phone rings, they have a problem with, wasps or ants or mosquitoes. You just go take care of it. And that's honestly how most companies start. And to be quite frank, like I always am, it's kind of how I started too. I remember early on, we were just taking almost everything that came in because we were just trying to grow the business and put cash in the bank. I was knocking on doors, selling one-time jobs, and everything felt really good at first because the schedule was full the next day, and money was hitting the bank account. But after a while, you just realize every month, every quarter, everything starts over from zero again. You constantly need to knock more doors, you constantly need to get more calls, you got to get more leads, you got to sell more jobs. And once you start adding more technicians, the problem honestly just gets bigger. Now you have trucks driving all over the God's green earth, doing random one-time jobs, and it just adds up fast, especially if we're running multiple trucks per day. But recurring revenue changes the structure of your business completely. And whether you're going to sell monthly, bi-monthly, quarterly, and even tri-annual, but whatever makes sense in your market and the pests you deal with, I don't care which one you choose, just start sticking away from one-times. I'd say 80 to 90% should be recurring revenue. And maybe 10 to 20% can be the specialty services, one-time services, things like that. Another benefit of recurring services, operational consistency. Now that you're servicing the same neighborhoods over and over again, whether it's on that monthly or quarterly basis, the schedule, instead of just randomly bouncing all over the place, chasing the one-time jobs, it becomes much more scalable business once you start adding technicians. But you guys have to fix these small nuances first before you guys open multiple locations. The other thing that changes is customer LTV. I talk about that a lot too, but it's such a big thing. But that one-time customer might spend, a couple $100 one time, and then a reoccurring customer will save you, 3, 5, 7 years and spend $600 to $1,200 a year with you guys, right? Maybe it's more with termite, things like that. But this really, really changes things. It changes how you spend marketing. It changes how you hire. It changes cash flow. And the one thing that I noticed personally is once we started growing the recurring side of the business, it just created a lot of stability in the company. And honestly, one of the biggest problems that I see inside the Pest Control Millionaires Facebook group is cash flow. So all you people that are watching, you probably see the same comments, same questions, but guys are constantly stressed every single week, every single month, trying to figure out payroll, marketing, fuel, products, truck payments, all while starting back at zero every single day or 30 days. The problem is that their business model doesn't really create predictable cash flow. They're constantly chasing the next sale just to keep the business moving. That's one of the reasons why recurring revenue matters so much, amongst many other things. Because then you have customers that are paying that monthly or quarterly or bi-monthly service, the business just becomes way more predictable. You can forecast better. You can hire based on your forecast instead of just reacting every single month. You can say, hey, we have more jobs in May. We have this many jobs in July. We're going to need to hire technicians, right? So it's just way easier, more scalable saying we're going to need to hire technicians a month in advance. One thing that recurring revenue also helps with is seasonality, which if you're in pest control or fertilization weed control or whatever service you're in, you know that every spring, summer gets super crazy, but recurring revenue helps smooth a lot of that out. Of course, you're still going to have some seasonality, of course, but it gets a lot easier to slow months when you already have that recurring revenue coming back in, instead of just trying to sell more jobs, spend more money on marketing in the slow months, because it's really, really hard. Hold up, quick pause. If you're on a pest control company or fertilization weed control company, you're not in our Facebook group, you're choosing the harder path. Every operator that's in there is skipping years of mistakes because people are actually sharing what's working right now. To stop trying to brute force your way through growth alone, search Pest Control Millionaires on Facebook or click the link below. And now let's get back to it. So now let's talk a little bit about building the service stack. Once the recurring revenue becomes the foundation, the next thing to figure out is how it fits around your service, right? Most companies just start adding random services without thinking through how they actually fit operationally. For General Pest, it's just a core service for us. That's the base. Then we built around it with services that naturally fit with the customer base. We offer mosquito, we offer rodent, flea and tick. Services that can usually be sold together, perform together, obviously in the same route together. In pest control, bundling services is just kind of where the numbers actually start making a lot more sense, right? You'll start to see that in your revenue per technician. The same customer has pests, they have mosquito, they have rodent. You generate a lot more revenue from that same exact stop. Then we start doing that across entire route. Technicians' production changed a lot too. So those trucks that were doing $1,000 to $1,500 are now doing $2,500 to $3,000 a day. Completely changes the economics of your business. It truly does. Now that truck is more profitable, that technician's making more money, and the whole business is more profitable, which means you have more money to go do the things that you need to do with, like grow the company. That stuff actually matters a lot once you start scaling multiple technicians, multiple trucks, and then multiple locations. A lot of owners focus almost entirely on just getting more customers. Meanwhile, they have this customers spending way less than they actually should because they never built a good service stack around the core business. One thing that I also learned is that customers usually want simplicity. They don't want 10 different service offerings, confusing the shit out of them with pricing. They just get lost in the weeds and they just don't sign up anyway because they're just confused. But that's why you just keep it simple. 3 at the very most. Maybe it's basic, mid-tier, premium. I don't care what you guys call it. Name it whatever you want to. And also, most homeowners aren't looking for the cheapest option possible. Most customers just want to know the problem's taken care of and are willing to pay a little bit more for it, especially if they already have a pest issue. They just want it gone. But a customer who already trusts you for their pest control, it's much easier to sell mosquito or rodent or whatever service you guys choose than it is to someone you've never done business with before. That's why the attachment rate matters so much in this industry. You already paid to acquire these customers. They already trust you. Now increasing the lifetime of that account is very, very important. But now instead of stopping at a house for one service, the customer might have multiple services, which just improves the business economics a lot, like I said earlier. That increases the revenue coming off of each route pretty fast without needing to add nearly as many additional customers, more technicians, or more trucks. And a lot of owners think they need more leads when a lot of times they already have the customers in their database that would buy additional services. They just presented it the right way. So here's what not to do. I see a lot of small companies make things just a lot harder on themselves. They make life so hard. And every year they just add more services. Whether they do pest control and they're adding pressure washing or window cleaning or Christmas lights or junk removal. And so I made a post. It's like, don't do this, basically. It just makes the business a lot harder. And then someone commented back and said, hey, and laughed at it. And said, hey, if you want to sell your lawn care companies because you guys run both services, I'll buy them from you. And it was like, that was the point of my post. Like, don't do what I did. Learn from my mistakes, right? There's a time and a place to add services. So I'll get to that in a little bit. But if you guys all remember, lawn care is actually is a really good example because I did that very early on, right? The background for Pest Badger was lawn care. So our first 5 locations naturally did lawn care. If you guys have been following my journey, Pest Badger was once called Turf Badger that morphed into a pest control company, so they changed their name. So my background was strong in lawn care. But the first 5 locations did lawn care, but the next 15 didn't, which really set the point of my post in the first place. The reason was because once we really started scaling pest control, we realized that lawn care added a lot more operational complexity than people think that it does. It's different equipment, it's different scheduling, it's different products, it's different seasonality, and a different hiring challenge altogether. Trust me. And when you're trying to grow a startup, it becomes a distraction super fast, right? Especially when the core business still has so much more room to grow. So the next pushback was, well, I have friends that do $20 to $40 million a year and they do both. I didn't say that to never do both. Never said that. But if you're a small company, you want to scale faster, stop doing so many services and stop making the business more complex, because the more complex you add, the slower you're going to go. You have too many distractions. My point being is that, okay, if you have a pest control company in a market and you have a huge market saturation, you just realize that you can't grow anymore, adding a second line item or second service to sell into your existing database makes sense. It really does. Starting out, keep it simple, stupid, even up to a couple $1 million, till you get to the market saturation point, then add a second service. I didn't say never, because some of these services are really great business on their own, just not stacked on what you guys are doing. And if at some point you get to that point where you need to add more service line items, that's fine. Also, like I thought about like existing, future, what Pest Badger looks like. What are we gonna get acquired? Who we get acquired by? Is one of the big players gonna want to buy you if you're doing all these services? Maybe a PE company, but then you put into the small box. Again, this is just my opinion, but one of the big players like in pest control or lawn care, they're not going to want to buy you if you're doing plumbing and HVAC and pressure washing and window washing. It's just not reality. Maybe a specialized PE company, maybe. But most small operators don't realize just really how much complexity that each service adds. Again, it's different training, it's different equipment, sometimes different insurance, and totally different systems, honestly. And once you start scaling your locations, complexity gets expensive. And then when you get to scale, you can go hire that professional that's very, very good at lawn care or very, very good at growing whatever that thing is, right? Then when you want to start add additional services, you can. One thing that I've learned about growing Pest Badger is simple, scale better. As you guys have noticed, once we stopped doing lawn care, went all in on pest control. We went from 0 to 19 locations across 5 years, and the majority of those have come in the last 3. It's because we got super focused on pest control and only do that one thing. Before we add any services now, I usually ask myself a few questions. Does it fit in our current customer base? Can our current technicians perform it? Does it help grow route density? Does it increase the customer value? Does it fit naturally in a business that we've already built? And a lot of services sound super exciting when you first think about them because it's revenue, but it's honestly just a distraction. And then 6 months later, your operations teams is dealing with headaches every single day trying to manage it. There's a reason some companies stuck around same size for years because they just keep adding more complexity. So they fully optimize the core business. That's kind of was my whole point. Like learn from my mistakes. Don't do what I did. Don't add more complexity. Don't add the lawn care, right? And so it even proved my point even more. Like, yeah, I did it for the first 5 locations. That's why I'm telling you not to do it because it gets way harder. So, because the next, 14 locations is way easier to scale because there wasn't so many distractions. The one thing that I believe pretty strongly about is that you should lead with your best package first. A lot of companies immediately start out with the cheapest service possible. Then later on, they try to upsell the customer into the next program, which in theory sounds pretty good, but it honestly gets a little bit harder because the customer already anchored themselves into that lower option. They just think that we're good. So present the best option first because we want the customer to understand that full protection looks like from day one, right? And if they want to scale back from there and decrease into a package, that's fine, but at least they saw the complete option first. But one thing that we've seen is customer calls in to cancel. They don't just say, hey, I want to cancel my mosquito services. They always say they want to cancel the entire account, especially, like I said, if they're bundled together into that monthly payment. That means that your CSRs or your retention team has to be very, very good at downgrading services instead of losing the customer completely. Maybe they have a mosquito. Maybe they remove rodent. Maybe they move to a smaller package. I don't care what they do, but your team has to be trained correctly so that you don't lose the entire account instead of just losing one service. And also customers who buy larger packages usually stay longer because they're using more of the company. So they're more emotionally invested into the relationship, right? That also increases retention naturally too. So a lot of growth in the business came from improving things inside the company before we added complexity on top of it. But we have to have better routing, had to increase LTV, had to have better retention. There's always room for improvement there, and more revenue per stop, per technician. And that's what made scaling for us a lot easier as we added more locations. So if you're a smaller operator watching this, I'd spend a lot of time looking closely at your service stack, asking whether it actually supports the kind of business you're trying to build the next 3 to 5 years from now. Again, I appreciate you guys for watching. If you guys got a lot of value, make sure to like and subscribe. If you guys have anything you want to chat about, make sure to ask questions in the comments below. But I'm documenting this journey for you guys, and I'm here to learn from you guys as well. But thanks for watching. As always, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.